Medoro Show live on YouTube every weekday, starting at noon Pacific, or, anytime you want to watch it on YouTube. It's available every single time. We have a great show coming up. Already waiting in our green room is Kaya Yuria. She writes about the creator economy for the information.com. There has been a ton of news about TikTok lately. We've talked about it. I mean, just the social media aspect of it, the fact that it's a Chinese-based company. Obviously, many governments, state governments are banning it. Senator Chuck Schumer has just come out today saying maybe they should look into banning it nationwide. So when you have all of that going on, how does TikTok survive? I mean, it's extremely popular, but can it continue to grow? And in what way can it grow? What are the avenues it is looking at? So we'll be speaking with Kaya in just a moment right here on the Nikki Medoro Show. Also coming up, a lot of concern, obviously, about the kids. Are the kids all right? They're not okay. Another day in America. Yesterday, another school shooting, this time in Michigan, at a college. Some 40-something-year-old guy goes on the campus, kills some students, injured several more. So we're going to get into this because the truth is the kids aren't okay. And whether it's social media like TikTok, for instance, or Snapchat or Instagram, whether it's the relationship with kids, there was a new research out from the CDC that we'll get into, looking at teens and sadness and, just what we can do, not just as a parent, but as a school and as a community to do something, because the kids just are not okay. But before we get to all that, we have so much more. We're going to get into Dianne Feinstein. We're going to get into Nikki Haley announcing her run for president. Barney is back. I don't know who was asking for that, but apparently somebody was. But before we start all of that, let me first say thank you to our exclusive founding sponsor, Steve Moskowitz. AAA Tax Deal. Moskowitz LLP is the website and the phone number to call and to go to. He is your tax guy. He's a tax attorney. He knows his stuff. He can help with accounting, HR. I mean, there's really nothing he can't do for your small or medium-sized business. So give him a call again, 888 Tax Deal. And of course, click that thumbs up button. It really helps support the show. I appreciate all of you. Honestly, I get the alerts. I'm going to be creating some either emails or maybe some new videos for our Patreon subscribers. So again, if you want to become a Patreon subscriber, it's really easy. You just go to our show's website. It's the NikkiMedoroShow.com. There's not only the link to the Patreon, and you can donate any amount you want to, but there's also links to our most recent YouTube shows to share with your family and friends. I think we just hit 3,600 subscribers. And we've only been here for a couple of months. So to the moon, baby. So let's just do it. Let's get our friends, our family all signed up. Again, the super chat is live. I love you guys donating. And I'm just going to start off by saying, welcome back. Welcome back to Andreas, who's always been a huge supporter of our show. Andreas, welcome back, my friend. People were emailing, wondering if you were okay. And thank you so much for the donation. $20 from Andreas. We also got a $10 super sticker from Joe Fong. Thank you so much. And Andreas, being Andreas, donated another $10 to the show. I will be sharing this with Kim McAllister, who will be back tomorrow from her vacation. I hope your mom's doing well, Andreas. Many people in the chat, and again, have been emailing, wondering how you are doing. So I'm so glad to see you back. And again, if you can, donate to the super chat. And finally, PayPal, theNikkiMedoroShow@gmail.com. And you can get some merchandise at our merch shop, theNikkiMedoroShop.com. Okay. Did I get it all out of the way? I think I did. Okay. So TikTok. Tell me in the comments, do you guys TikTok? I mean, I know the age of my viewers and my listeners. We skew a little bit older. I'm often surprised by the number of my friends, and I'm in my almost mid-40s, right, who are really on TikTok. And it can be a time suck. I will say, as I've gotten older, I feel like I'm spreading myself thinner across the social media platforms. So sometimes I'm really into Facebook, and sometimes I'm really into Instagram, but I'm not really devoted to one social media platform, and I don't visit any of the other ones. Well, TikTok, I mean, it just seems to be growing in popularity. Or is it? Has its growth begun to slow? Well, joining us now is Kaya Yuriev. Again, she writes about the creator economy with the information.com. Kaya, thank you so much for coming on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Hi, Nikki. Congrats on the show. Really exciting.
Thank you. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk about this, because when I saw the headline that, TikTok was looking for new ways to grow, I'm a novice at this. I mean, you follow these sorts of trends. I was thinking that TikTok was like leading the way. Every time you turn around, it's I'm TikToking this, I'm doing this TikTok dance. Make sure you're on TikTok. Talk a little bit about where TikTok is in relation to other social media platforms.
Definitely. I mean, I think its cultural relevancy is undiminished, but I think this is something that we're seeing across the board with tech companies from Amazon to Peloton, where they grew so quickly and had this huge pandemic boom. And then obviously that growth has to come back down to earth. I mean, I do think TikTok was seen as just this unstoppable rocket ship. Again, the cultural relevancy is still there, but they have had a slowdown. I mean, if you think about in 2020, they said they had about 100 million monthly active users in the US. That's about a third of the US population. I mean, they reach 1 billion monthly active users around the globe. I mean, that they have critical mass now of users, right? So that crazy growth has basically slowed down, is what employees have told me. And some of the third-party data as well shows that slowdown.
Isn't that expected though? I mean, there has to be a saturation point with anything. I mean, for instance, I think Netflix has seen it, a different thing, not social media. But at some point you're like, okay, we're going to get everybody at this point that we're going to get. So how does TikTok transition to get more growth? And do they have to grow, or is enough enough?
Yeah, so I think they have obviously been super popular with teens and young people. They obviously are not just a teen dancing app anymore. I think they've kind of shed that reputation. There's so many different types of creators, but they haven't penetrated kind of like the 30 to 35 plus crowd as well as they have young people. So in terms of ways for them to grow and attract more users, they are targeting these older demographics. And part of that effort is through premium content, which was what I reported on in my story. So it's, just like YouTube did with premium shows or getting media publishers or getting ESPN to post, all those things, they're trying to do those things. And the other piece of it too is keeping the users they have engaged, right? Because that's a big part of it too. They're facing heightened competition. Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts have not unseated TikTok, but they certainly are trying. So that competition as well is not going away.
Talk about paywalls. Is it difficult for platforms, whether it's TikTok or anything else, to introduce, even if it's a little bit like a buck, to introduce it and people be like, you know what, I like the content, I don't like it that much?
Yeah, so part of my reporting is that they're working on a feature where basically a creator would be able to put a paywall around a video and charge, say, $1 for fans to be able to unlock that. It's a question of how successful this will be. I mean, it's a tough, I think, it's a tough economically for creators. I mean, if they're going to go out of the way to make extra content for $1, then TikTok inevitably will take a cut. You have the payment processing fees. It really doesn't amount to much, but there might be the diehard fans who really want to kind of unlock that video. And for as little as $1, maybe people will be willing to try it. But I do think that subscription options like a Patreon, like you're doing for your show, right, is more of a kind of proven path for the top fans. But I think that this paywalled video is just part of a broader effort to just try a bunch of creator money making tools and see what works for different creators, because it's all about offering ways for creators to earn money.
Talk about being a creator. I think, the whole influencer type career, some people may laugh at, but I mean, is this here to stay? I mean, and I'm speaking as someone who obviously creates a daily show on YouTube. Is this a real permanent transition to careers, to how people get information? Is this here to stay?
I think so. I mean, if you look back at the history of YouTube, they've been sharing ad revenue with creators since 2007. So this has been an industry that's been growing. And I think the pandemic really helped legitimize it. And it became a real viable career path for people. Obviously, it's a question of how many people will be able to do this and make it a full-time career. But certainly we've seen huge explosive growth during the pandemic. And it's not just the social platforms. You can do a newsletter on Substack or do a podcast. There's all sorts of different ways to be a creator.
If you're just joining us, I'm speaking with Kaya Yuriev. She writes about the creator economy for theinformation.com. And I've included the link to the article we're talking about in my show notes. But let's talk about TikTok even being able to exist in this country. I mean, it is a Chinese-based company. Everything going on with China has really raised concern among government officials. Many states, I think Connecticut is one of the latest states to consider banning TikTok on government and state-owned devices. How does TikTok plan for the future when its future, at least in the United States, is in jeopardy?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we've seen a growing number of headlines, and more than 24 states now have banned it on government devices. But the reality is that TikTok has been dealing with this type of pressure and this type of threat for the past 3 years. I mean, Donald Trump, when he was president, threatened to ban the app in 2020. That was around the time India banned the app outright, as well as other Chinese apps. So this is something that has been hanging over TikTok for years. It certainly feels like it's reaching a fever pitch now, but they are trying to take different steps with securing US data. They are in active conversations with the Biden administration. It's been interesting to see some colleges as well and universities ban it from Wi-Fi networks. I mean, a lot of this is performative, right? I mean, of course, a college student can go off the Wi-Fi and still watch TikTok, or someone, a government official can watch TikToks on their personal device, right? Or off the Wi-Fi, but it's just the fact that this chorus of voices is getting much louder now.
Absolutely. And I also think there's the question of what is the social media doing to us? I mean, there's one thing to kind of watch funny cartoons or maybe even get your news and information from it. But when you have something like TikTok, or even in China, I was reading, this was a couple, I think this came out a couple years ago, but they only limit kids to 40 minutes a day of TikTok in China. So there has to be something to be said if the Chinese, with their own social media platform created there, will only allow their kids to be on it for 40 minutes. And I'm sure it's a hell of a lot longer for American kids being on something like TikTok.
Yeah, this is a problem that expands beyond TikTok, right? For years on Instagram, you put your best foot forward. There have been lots of concerns about the impact of seeing kind of this curated stream of photos and videos for years. So it's a problem that goes beyond TikTok, but to all social platforms.
Absolutely. Kaya Yuriev with theinformation.com. She writes awesome articles for him. Check them out. I put them in the show notes. Kaya, I'd love to get you back on the show. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Nikki.
All right. Have a great one. Yeah. And so again, I think when we're talking about something like, TikTok or Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, we really need to be mindful of how it's being used and how other people are using it. Like I love being on YouTube, right? I love doing this show. It's a lot more work than being on traditional radio. But how much time do you guys spend on, let's just even say YouTube? I mean, I'm hoping you're watching both Mark Thompson's show and my show. So that's what, at least 4 hours if you have it running in the background. Chris was writing in the comments. I saw it during the interview. Chris writes in, I prefer the radio because you can listen and work. You can't do that with TV. I mean, you can, as long as you're not needing the pictures, of course. Lori talks about this whole idea of being, a creator, this creator economy, this creator type job, this influencer type job. Lori wrote, people make real money as influencers. It's a new take on marketing. People get real jobs in big corporations in marketing. They should teach these skills as a subset. Absolutely. I just feel like we need to understand both the benefit and the negatives, obviously, of any social media platform, whether it's, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Eric, though, made an interesting point. Google is our memory. We can look up things in an instant. Well, what happens, Eric and others, when Google goes down? What happens if AI takes over and will only give us the information we want? You know, because again, Google isn't, this foreign entity. It is created by human beings who are fallible and have biases. I mean, yes, they have algorithms and things like that, but someone created that algorithm, a person, a human being. I don't know. We have to stop kind of superimposing our knowledge and everything into a computer, because the computer might not always be there. So yeah, it's an interesting conversation. Again, Kaya Yuriev with theinformation.com. Read that article. Trying to grow TikTok, trying to grow in the United States, even as people want to ban it, is quite interesting. Let's get into the kids, shall we? Are the kids okay? What do you think? Do you think that the kids are doing okay? 11 writes in, our American children are for sale. I think that obviously that person's talking about social media and content, but we're not really protecting our kids that well, are we? I mean, I know that COVID happened. I had teased this a bit yesterday. An estimated 230,000 students in 21 states are missing from school. This is following the pandemic. And basically, this was an analysis by the Associated Press, Stanford University's big local news project, and a Stanford professor. And they found those thousands of students were absent and they couldn't be accounted for. They didn't move out of state. They didn't sign up for private school or homeschool. In short, they're missing. It reached a crisis level of attention in 2020, obviously, when the pandemic shut down schools. But many of these kids just did not come back, or they haven't let their schools know where they are. Let's see. So they assessed every state to find the most recently available data. Overall, public school enrollment fell by more than 700,000 students between 2019-2020 and the 2021-2022 school years. Those states saw private school enrollment grow by more than 100,000 students. So not an equal. It's not like all 700,000, right? Homeschooling grew by 180,000. But the data showed 230,000 students were neither in private school or homeschooled, and their absences could not be explained. In our state, in California, more than 150,000 students are missing in the data. I mean, obviously, it could be kids slipping through the cracks, all sorts of things. I'm just wondering, what are we doing to make things better for our kids? Or is trying to make things better making it worse? So Aurora Regino, she's a mom. She has a kid in the Chico Unified School District here in California. And she's suing. Now, she alleges that her child's school district allegedly was transitioning her 11-year-old gender in secret. So apparently she discovered her daughter, who was a 5th grade student in the Chico Unified School District, was living a double life as a male named Jaden and was receiving school counseling on socially transitioning. But right now, she's gone back to identifying as a female. So the mom says, they were talking to my daughter about different support groups in town to help her with her transition, and then discussed breast binding with my daughter that I had no knowledge of. She claims the district's alleged parental secrecy policy allows students to transition without their parents' knowledge, and she obviously wants it to stop. The school district declined to comment, at least according to this article, but they issued a statement back in January saying that the Chico Unified does not have a parent secrecy policy, nor does it ever try to define a student's personal identity. But the mom disagrees. She says that she never gave her permission for the school to see a counselor one-on-one, which I'm just going to pause there. That would trouble me, right? If my daughter is being brought into the counselor, I want to be made aware of it. If my daughter was seeing a counselor or let's just say a therapist, I would want to know that at least that the conversations were happening so I could have another conversation with my kid. The mom also said for a few months, she had opened up to a guidance counselor And the guidance counselor, the very day that she opened up, the very day, first day, said the daughter had said she felt like a male. She walked her to her class and affirmed it that day. She says, my daughter did mention to the school counselor that she wanted to tell me, and the school counselor dismissed it and was trying to get her to come out to other people first. The director for the Center for Parental Rights says schools are violating the Constitution by promoting, I'm not really in support of that word, but promoting gender transition and keeping the information from parents. So the reason why I bring this up is I think that there is a desire by schools, right, to support kids. They want to support kids. They want to acknowledge kids. They're reading the headlines of, kids that feel like they can't be their true selves, maybe at more at risk of suicide or depression. And we're going to get into that CDC study in just a moment. But is it going too far? You guys tell me in the comments, because it's tough, right? On one hand, I'm happy that a school cares about my kids so much that they want to listen to them. If my child went to a counselor and was saying, let's just say my daughter went to a counselor and was like, I feel like transitioning. I would want the response to be, okay, how do you feel? Let's talk about it. But there should always be a goal, in my opinion, as long as there's no history of abuse or something like that, of bringing the parent into this conversation in a way that is guided, that is safe, that includes the student, and they're not blindsided by it, of course. But there's a way of doing it. I mean, you're a damn counselor. Don't you know how to do this stuff? So, personal story. And because you guys know the health challenges that my daughter has been going through over the past year or so, I don't know if I shared the story, but a school counselor actually called me. And this was before we knew that my daughter had Crohn's. And I remember, we were doing the testing, all sorts of stuff to figure out what was wrong with her health-wise. And my daughter's counselor had called because they were concerned that she had lost some weight. Now, they had brought her in and they were talking to her about it, because obviously when you're talking, especially about teenage girls, right? I mean, your mind goes typically to one direction. Oh my God, are they eating enough? Are they concerned about their appearance? I will tell you, honestly, I was so happy that the counselor called me. She still talked to my daughter, but included me in this. And of course, it was forthcoming. I talked to my daughter about it. We're like, oh, it's not that, but it's this. But thank you. Thank you for reaching out to me. And I will tell you, that counselor has been in touch with us this whole entire time. I've had teachers call the day of my daughter's surgery. One of my daughter's teachers called just in the middle of the day, like, oh my God, I just remember today is the day. How is she doing? That is caring about kids. That is remembering what they're going through, and not just reaching out to them, but reaching out to the parents. So there's a trust there, The thing with the mom in Chico is I don't think there was any trust there. And I don't know this woman, and I don't know her political stance, and I don't know, how she feels, if she believes, and I'm putting that in quotes, the transgender people exist. But I could imagine a conversation going a different way, right? This is how I imagine it would be better. Hey, Mrs. Regina, I just want to let you know that I was talking to your daughter. She came in and she was expressing some feelings about her identity, her gender identity. And I'd like to set up a time for us to talk. If you want me to be there or you want to have a conversation with your child, I let them know I would be calling you, because that is what we do here, right? And kind of have the conversation that way. Now, I know it gets tricky if, for instance, the child tells the school counselor, don't tell my parents. They won't understand. They're abusive, whatever. If they're abusive, then I think that conversation goes a completely different way. Mandatory reporting, having a conversation with the parents, possibly the police in a different way, right? So, but leaving parents out is where I think we run into a lot of trouble. Now, do I think, well, one, Chico Unified has said that they don't have this parental secrecy policy. And again, we are getting the story from the mom's side. And the daughter has now identifies. I mean, she said that she wanted to transition to male. She has not. She is a female. So it's this whole new world that parents have to navigate. And kids, I think when we ask the question, are they okay? Are they okay because of how we react as a society to what they're going through? You know? I remember I saw this one, I think it was like some sort of Facebook post or something. And, it was kind of in a joking manner. And the person was saying, I went to my mom and I told her that I was a lesbian. And then I told her that I was this. And then I told her that I was that. And they're like, you know what? If you're happy and you're not late for dinner, that's all I give a crap about. Right? Like, it's just this acceptance of you're figuring out who you are. You tell me what I could do to make you feel comfortable. And let's leave it at that. And let them and give them the space to figure it out. Younger children do need guidance, though. Conversation, things like that. But I don't believe in this leaving the parents out of the conversation. It needs to happen. And interesting. Okay, so I'm just going through the comments. And again, Kim McAllister usually helps me out with this. She'll be back tomorrow from her much needed vacation. 11, you wrote in, the American family is under assault. Talk a little bit about that. In what way do you think it's under assault? Is it because of what I was talking about of being left out of the conversations? I would feel, lack of a better word, I'd be pissed. I would be pissed if my child, my son, my daughter, whatever, was going through something as important as their identity. And one, didn't feel comfortable talking to me about it. I wouldn't be pissed about that. I'd be hurt. I'd be like, what? Why don't they feel comfortable? I know that some kids, no matter how close they are to their parents, just sometimes don't feel comfortable, right? Telling them everything, and they want a counselor for that. So I'd be hurt. I'd be disappointed that I wasn't the one that they confided in. But I would be so mad if something as important as my child's identity, which we know can kind of make or break kids, right? On whether they're accepted. We know that there's a higher rate of depression and suicide within the LGBTQ community. So my child is experiencing something, is going through something within themselves. Damn well straight, I better know about it. And obviously it matters the type of parents, but that's what I would want. That's what I would want. Denise writes in, honestly, kids are focused on their social activities unless adults in their world guide them to more worldly interests. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, Luce writes in, interesting. This happened to my sister's friend at Santa Teresa High School here in San Jose. Since graduating, she is now back to being herself as a girl. Okay, so Luce, did she, I guess I'm going to use she, transition at all? Or was she just kind of, I won't say dabbling or just experimenting, like figuring it out? Because that's the other thing is I think that when we talk about kids who are questioning their gender identity, non-conforming or whatever, we make them choose right then and there. When I think, in my opinion, what they're saying is, I don't know yet. I'm feeling a certain way. And maybe, and you know what, I'm not going to say maybe. They are influenced by other people going through life as well. And with social media shrinking this world, you can easily find people that are going through what you're going through. And maybe that helps, and maybe it confuses them even more. And that's why it's important for there to be somebody close to them, eyeball to eyeball in real life, that knows them to have the conversation. Now, Jim, you're correct. If your daughter was seeing a counselor about you, they don't have to tell you. They don't have to tell me, but I would want them to. Does that make sense? If my daughter is going, or my son, pardon me, I need a sip of my coffee. If my child's going through something, I want to know. I want to know. Now, I know there needs to be a safe space. And so, my daughter leading up to Crohn's and her surgery, I had her talking with someone, as I believe you should. The only question I've ever asked my daughter after talking to someone privately, did it go okay? And she says yes, and that's all I ask. If she wants to tell me anything more than that, she can. But I want to know if my daughter or my son is going through something enough that they want to see a counselor or that a counselor has brought them in. Am I wrong? Vilma writes in, you're right, Nikki. You should be advised, but the student should have some privacy. Exactly. I'm not saying I have to know exactly what the conversation was about, but I'd want to know that they were speaking to somebody. I think any parent would. So then you can have your own conversation in whatever way. You could tell your kid, maybe give them the space, be like, look, it doesn't matter what it is. I love you. If you're going through something, maybe I can help. If I can't, I really hope that the counselor is helping you. And maybe if you want, maybe one day I can go in with you. Like, give them the space to feel safe and then want to bring you in, knowing that they're not going to. I mean, I tell this to my kids all the time. Whenever I know that they've done something that I don't like, because that the instant is like, I'm going to deny it or something. I go, just tell me the truth. You're not going to be in trouble, relative to what obviously the situation is. I'm like, but just tell me the truth. I just say, and sometimes I just say the word. I'm like, truth. Like, I'll ask them a question, but like, truth. Like, it's fine. Because I think they just need that reassurance that not only is it safe to tell me something, but for me personally is most important is that I'm going to take a breath before I react. Sometimes, and I'm guilty of this so many times, more often than not probably, of reacting and then breathing, right? Like, you're what? You feel like what? And then all of a sudden your child's like going to back into a corner and not talk about it anymore. Because why are they going to talk to you about it? You're losing your S, right? Which again, I am so guilty of more times than not. I try to take a breath and it's hard sometimes. But if your kid's coming to you, or if you're getting a heads up that your kid's visited a counselor, you could take that breath. How am I going to react to that? How am I going to respond to that? Eric writes, kids are literally being disowned for coming out as gay to their parents. In many cases, they obviously don't feel safe talking to their parents. Exactly. I understand that. I don't know. If parents are in tune with their kid, they're already guessing that their child may be gay. Yeah, I think that any parent, and I think it's safe to say something. If you know your kid, you know your kid. And I'm not saying that every gay person or whatever, fill in the blank adjective about a person is so obvious that you should know. But you know what I make a point of doing? And I don't at this point. Neither of my children have told me that they may like people of the same sex. What are my rules? That's what I tell my kids. What are my rules? They have to be nice to you. You have to be nice to them. And you got to treat each other right. That's all. Are you happy? Are you treating each other right? Are you not, are you able to do what you want to do? Hang out with who you want to hang out with? Are those things still happening? And if they are, great. If they're not, then we have a problem. I ask them, I'm like, do you like anybody? Instead of saying, is there a boy you like or is there a girl you like? I mean, I can do it sometimes, just out of habit, but leaving that space where, okay, it could be anybody. And kids, at least my kids, and they're what, almost 14. My daughter's birthday is next week. 14 and 11, right? God, they don't bat an eye at some of the things that we're going to debate for an hour, right? And so they know. And I'm like, well, do you like anybody? Not saying a boy or a girl. They look at me. But it's because I want them to know that it doesn't matter to me. And it doesn't matter to their dad, right? Are you happy? Do they treat you well? Do you have the freedom to move and do the things you want to do? Because the last thing, especially teens, right? The last thing you want is someone to be obsessed, but they can't do anything. Amy writes in, my kid changed her name last year in the 3rd grade and literally had the entire school calling her by this name. And we had no idea about it. They told us that they wanted to be they, them, but I think at 8, she didn't have a clue what she was talking about. As an LGBTQ person myself, I had to inform her that she's taking up space for people that had this real issue. Wow. Amy, that is so interesting. That's interesting. Especially because you're part of the LGBTQ community. God, I would love to have a deeper conversation with you about that, Amy. How confident did you feel in that response at 8, being like, you don't know what you're talking about? And I'm not judging you. I feel like a lot of people say, like, I know my kid, right? I was just talking about my kid. So at 8, you're like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're taking up the space, Interesting response is what I'm going to say. I don't agree or disagree. It seems like you say, at least you typed it with such confidence. Are you sure? And why are you sure? Did you know at 8 that, who you liked? I mean, in the chat, at what age, guys, did you decide or know or whatever, what you liked, who you liked? Was it 8? Oh, yeah, Amy, send in more comments because yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm just fascinated by your response. Vilma says there's a difference between people who have always felt gay and a teenager that is just questioning their sexuality and needs a counselor. Okay. Cheryl says, in my day, we had no conversations or any thoughts on gender when I was young. I don't know what would have happened with many of my classmates. It all seems scary to me. Interesting, Cheryl. What scares you, Cheryl? Because I bet dollars to donuts that there were people in your class that questioned their gender. But, and I'm not saying that there's no such thing as tomboys who are girls. They just, like quote unquote boy things, right? But some of them just might have been lumped in with that, right? Not questioning their gender, their fluidity. And again, you can look back, and I don't know how old you are, Cheryl, but we have, celebrities, singers, artists, models that were very gender neutral, to say, or gender bending, men dressing as women, women dressing like men. But I think that when we put a spotlight on it, that, this isn't a celebrity, singer, artist, rock star type of thing, it's Sally down the street. All of a sudden, it doesn't seem like it's for show or for celebrity or because they can be flamboyant because of their career. It's, no, I'm a normal person and this is how I feel. And I don't feel like I'm in this box. And it's a real thing, and we're real people, and it's a real community, and it's just as real as you identifying as a man or a woman. John writes in, I would feel the same way you do, Nikki, but you have to understand too that not every parent is as accepting. In a world where conversion therapy and people who think LGBTQ people are mentally ill. But he went on to say, I'd be really hurt. That said, I'd be really hurt if my kids kept me out of the loop as well. Yeah, I'm just reading some of these comments that are coming in. Tony from San Antonio, privacy, no. This is a major life decision, possibly. How am I going to provide comfort to my child if I have no clue what's going on in their head? I'm up in my kid's business. Not negative though. I am too. I'm nosy, and I don't apologize for it at all. Now, do I let my kids be on their phones and their electronics way too long? Yes. So believe me, I'm totally guilty of that. But my kids listen to me. I put blocks on their phones, and after a certain time, they can't be on it. They have app limits about how much time they could be on certain things. And yes, they beg me sometimes. And maybe on the weekends or if they're with their friends, I give in. It's a fluid type of thing. But no, I'm up on my kids' jock all the time. Absolutely. Susan says, yes, the parents should be involved. Parents are responsible for all their behavior until 18 years old. Won't the parents be responsible if they're bringing a gun to school? Yes. Good point, Susan. Yeah, Amy, maybe we could do, and I'm going to do this over the thing, but reach out to me. My email, the Nikki Medoro Show@gmail.com. We can bring you on the show. I'd love to. I love bringing listeners on the show. If you guys want to talk to something and be a guest on my show, just send me an email. I think, and especially, all of you that are very regularly in the comments, love to see your face on my show. Lori said, I had a fourth grader put they, them in Zoom name during lockdown. I got in touch with the parent to ask if they knew. Mom did know and thanked me for checking with her. I told the kid I needed to talk to the parent about it. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Vilma says parents need to be nosy. I'm nosy. I'm very, very nosy. Big fat nose right here. All right. Well, I know that all of you guys have seen, or if you haven't, this new CDC report. Teenage girls are experiencing high levels of sadness and violence. It's a really, really disturbing trend. When you look at some of this, when you look at the statistics, it could be extremely scary if you have a teenager, especially a teenage girl. They say sexual attacks and other traumatic experiences have led to an unprecedented level of hopelessness and suicidal thoughts among America's young women. This is from a CDC report that came out this week. It was the 2021 Youth Risk Behavior Survey. Said nearly 3 in 5 teenage girls, 57%, said they felt persistently sad or hopeless. And that's the highest rate in a decade. 30% of teenage girls said they seriously considered dying by suicide. It's a percentage that's risen by nearly 60% over the past 10 years. One of the study's authors, Dr. Deborah Howry, who was also acting principal deputy director of the CDC, was talking about the hopeless feelings and why kids may be feeling this way.
So what we've seen is just over time, this worsening. We saw issues with this pre-pandemic, and certainly it got worse during the pandemic. Some of this can be due to things like social isolation, but also things like social media, self-image, bullying at school. So there's no single reason for it.
There's no single reason for it, but we're seeing it. We really are. We're seeing it. And it's scary. As the mother of both a daughter and a son, it's scary. And Howry and the CDC were saying it was striking the consistency with which girls were faring more poorly than boys. Here's more from Dr. Howry.
Girls were more likely to feel suicidal and to attempt suicide. And our gay, bisexual, and questioning youth were also more likely to attempt suicide. Both really went up. And I think that's what's striking and devastating is, nearly 10% of girls attempted suicide and 20% of our gay, bisexual, and questioning youth attempted suicide. As a parent, I just can't even imagine. And these are things that we need to address now.
What I mean is we know how they differed, girls and boys, but is there any reason or any preliminary thinking about why they were different, the difference between girls and boys in the findings?
So I think, drawing from what you raised about the hopelessness, sadness, also we saw that boys were more likely to feel connected to school. So I think where you've got some of the social supports in place, like connectedness, and then on the flip side, if you have more mental health symptoms and you're experiencing trauma, you're more likely then to attempt suicide.
I mean, that suicide chart that I have up there, though. I mean, look. I mean, 19% for girls, for females, 13 for males in 2011. I mean, the boys went up to 14% from 13% in 10 years. The girls went up from 19 to 30% who are seriously considering suicide. It's awful. Now, this survey has been conducted every other year for 3 decades. 40% of boys and girls said they'd felt so sad or hopeless within the past year that they were unable to do regular activities such as schoolwork or sports for at least 2 weeks. When researchers looked at gender differences, girls were far more likely to report such feelings than boys. And then there's this question of, what do we do, both as parents and schools?
So I think to be as open and non-judgmental as possible so that your child is comfortable coming to you, and also looking for signs. Are there changes in appetite or sleep apart from the usual teenage changes? Are there trends in this? It's also important not just to talk to your child, but also to know their friends and their friends' parents. That way you're able to have an open communication with families around you, build that support system, and have a good sense of where your child is and what they're up to. Schools are so important as a part of the solution. Things like teaching life skills, conflict management, what healthy relationships are, as well as overall health education as well is really important. And certainly connecting students to health and mental health care.
If we would just prioritize and really not just give lip service, but really prioritize mental health in this country, oh God, the changes that we would see. Now, the latest data also shows an increase in the proportion of youth who did not go to school because of safety concerns. There were increases in teen girls experiencing sexual violence, teen boys experiencing electronic bullying. Nearly 1 in 5 teen girls had experienced sexual violence in the past year. About 1 in 7 teen girls had been forced to have sex. And again, schools are on the front lines to fight this or to help these kids. So again, we were talking about, having a counselor. We need these kids to have some safe place to land. I want that to be me and my husband and our home. But I also want to know that there's a community, the school counselor, others that they can also turn to. Luce raises a good point. How do these findings correlate to shifts in family dynamics with overworked parents or single parents and economic stability in family? Yeah. Especially, let's just say someplace like the Bay Area, right? So expensive to live here. Both parents have to work in many cases. So there's the safe space that the parents want to be and try to be can only be so much because you can't physically be in a place when you're at work. And so who do they turn to? It's a tough, tough call. There has been a dramatic rise in violent behavior targeting girls, according to the CDC report. And one such assault that we've been talking about in recent days was the attack and then the subsequent suicide of 14-year-old Adriana Hutch. Now, she was attacked walking down the hallway of her high school with her boyfriend in New Jersey. People were videotaping the fight. They're making fun of her about it. And she took her own life a couple of days later. Now, the students who brutally beat her have been arrested, criminally charged. We don't have their names because obviously they're underage. But one sophomore at this high school was quoted by NBC New York as saying, Adriana took her own life because nobody at the school was able to help or care or step in. I would actually like to teach the people who bully what they're actually doing and how it affects. I don't think the kids know the effects that they have on each other. I try to guide my daughter and my son, think about how things sound to other people, and they don't like it. Oh, it's not a big deal if so-and-so said something to so-and-so, and they know what I mean. And, oh, it's just an inside joke, or, they don't have, those people don't have to know what we're talking about. And they don't understand that because of social media and the phones. I think the hardest thing about being a kid nowadays is there's no disconnect. You don't get to escape school because school follows you home in your pocket. The clicks, the invitations you don't get that aren't extended. Now you know. Now you know if your entire crew is hanging out without you. When before you just go home, watch some afternoon cartoons, do some homework, go to school the next day, nobody's talking about it. You don't know that you've been left out. You don't know that, that trip that you did in the hallway that everyone caught on their phone is being replayed over and over. People putting music over it and laughing at you. I mean, this is an age in which kids don't want to stand out. I mean, they do in one aspect, right? You want positive attention, but you don't want negative attention. And now it doesn't stop. I mean, I think everybody in the chat knows what it's like to want to be accepted and not being, right? There's a moment in everyone's life where they've been left out, odd man out. But now this generation has to grow up knowing every moment you've been left out. And the hardest part, if I'm being honest, as a parent who allows my children to have phones, and they do have some social media, not all, is that they shouldn't have any of it. And we know it. I know it. I think the best thing that I could do for my children is probably take the damn phone away from them. So why don't I? I'm just being honest. It's because, well, one, so much is on the phone. School-wise, let's just start school-wise. So much is on the phone. And two, because this is also the world in which they grow up in. Do I think that taking something away that they are going to have to learn how to use in a healthy way is smart? No. But we also do know that it is the phone that's the problem. It is. I think so too, Chris. I wish that they would ban smartphones in schools. It'll never happen. And why won't it happen? Because of what happened in Michigan yesterday. The anniversary today of Parkland? Because school shootings have put the fear of God in everybody, as they should. What if my child needs me? What if they need to reach me? What if something happens? What if they're walking home and getting kidnapped? It's fear. It's fear that keeps the phones on them. It's fear that parents would be in an uproar, right? Parents would be in a friggin' uproar if you're like, you can't have your... Now, my kid's school says the minute the bell rings at the beginning of the day until the end of the day, you can't have your phones on. You can have them in your backpack, but you can't have them on. I see pictures. Kids are they just have their phones. And I don't know what's going on in the classroom, but I've seen pictures during school hours of kids on their phones. No, and I'm not saying that schools are terrible. I think that you're just trying to friggin' teach these friggin' kids, right? But it's this age that we live in where we need the phone, if not for, connection and information, but for safety. Joe's right. Parents and teachers are just as addicted to their phones as the kids. Absolutely. Eric says smartphones are not allowed in my son's school, but it's K through 8th only. Eric, how do they know? They're not checking the backpacks, I would assume. So do you really think that no kid is bringing a smartphone or doesn't have it in their backpack at all? I mean, is that really what's going on? John writes in, we had to deal with bullies differently. We got into fist fights with bullies. Oh, that's exactly what happened to this girl in the hallway who committed suicide. She got beat up, but she was, from what it sounds like, she was just walking with her boyfriend and she got tackled. I don't know the background of the story. I'm not saying fist fighting is the answer either. I would much rather, that old Friday scene, right? You fight with your hands, so you live to fight another day, right? Instead of taking out a gun and killing somebody. Yes, I do think that's better. But now they're having fights to post on social media. So it's not only do you get the physical abuse, you get the psychological abuse as well. It's way too much for these kids to deal with. People are like, oh, kids are so soft nowadays. You deal with the pressure these kids have to deal with. Pressure from parents, pressure from schools, pressure to figure out what the hell they want to do with their lives. And then the social media pressure, the inability to get away if you don't have a parent that's snatching that phone out of your damn hand. God, I feel for kids. We laugh. Oh, thank God we didn't have social media or phones when I was a kid. Oh, the things we got away with because nobody knew. Look, I'm Gen X. Like, nobody knew what we were doing. Nobody knew. We would tell the stories and, maybe you had a disposable camera with some pictures on it. But nowadays, everybody knows. Everybody knows the good, the bad, the ugly. And that's hard. That's a hard world to navigate when you are also going through puberty trying to find out relationships, figure out who the hell you are. Vilma says, maybe I'm showing my age, but there is too much sexual violence against girls and women on TV and in the movies as well. Girls today have a lot to deal with. School, life, and social media. It's too much. Yeah. Yep. Amy agrees with me. You never said anything more true. I should take her phone. I really should. I think all parents have that moment, Amy, right? You're like, I should just take the phone. You know what the answer is. And I've taken my children's phone. It's not like they've never taken it away. And again, there are blocks on my kid's phone. I have tracking device and everything like that. But it's one of those things where you know what the answer is, but you can't fully do it because there is a benefit, but there's all this negative. Oh, Denise says there's a phone basket in some social gatherings. Maybe the teacher could have a phone basket in her desk. My daughter was just telling me a story because students are not allowed to have the AirPods in, and one of her friends had them. And so it goes into like this, instead of taking it and sending them to the office where they can get a referral, which kind of sends you down the path of really being in trouble. The teacher just snatches them, puts them in phone jail until the end of the school day, which I like, right? Like, let's keep this on a one-on-one basis. We don't have to get the office involved. But yeah, I think that that's a good idea. Eric says any phone spotted will be taken. So if the kids bring them, they don't pull them out at recess. Yeah. So that's basically kind of what my kid's school does as well. John says teach your kid self-defense just in case. We got bullied by a much bigger kid, so us bullied folk banded together, kicked his ass. That was the end of the bullying. They do say bulliers really are scared of being stepped to, right? They want to scare the crap out of you. Lady Beatrice, bullying a felony for what, 13-year-olds? And throw them in jail? I think there definitely need to be repercussions for those that watch. Remember, we were talking about that Pleasanton Middle School fight that happened outside the Pleasanton Library. All those people, if your phone is sharing a video of somebody getting their ass beat in the hallway, you will face a consequence. I like that idea. No longer should people get away with standing by and even if you don't want to get involved physically, which I would say that's totally fine, tell somebody, walk away. Don't pull out the phone. Don't share the video. If it's tied to you or it's shared to you, you're busted. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I hate that they film these fights too loose. It's a disgrace. And I tell my kids that too. I go, don't just sit there and pull out your phone. Do something about it. Tell somebody or walk away at the very least. But I would say tell somebody. Absolutely tell somebody. Because again, the sad part is that the kids are not okay. And again, I just want to remind everybody that if you or your child or someone you know is going through something, they've made it so easy to get help, and that's 988. 988 is a suicide prevention number. And I've mentioned it to my kids, and you have to mention it to everybody, right? I mean, there has to be an easy way for people to understand that there is help out there. Well, on the Creek Adult Softball, you're absolutely correct. A bully usually has been bullied at some point in their life. But bullying others is also a choice. I mean, the whole idea of like hurt people is true, but there has to be an end to it, right? I could have been hurt. I could have been bullied, but that does not give me an excuse to bully others. Now, it could explain why I do it. But there has to be a point where you break the cycle. You just have to break the cycle. There's just so much damn violence. And we're going to get into in the next hour, about the presidential announcements of people, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, Trump's still obviously in it. Trump wanting to bring back firing squads for executions. But this freaking shooting in Michigan, I mean, my God, 3 students, 5 wounded. It's so disappointing that we have not been able to get it together enough. This was, hold on, I want to play you a little bit, just a little bit of Governor Gretchen Whitmer. the emotion is real, but I'm just so tired of it.
Last night, he pledged his support and the thoughts of an entire nation. And we will work together to do what is necessary to help MSU community heal. We're all broken by an all too familiar feeling. Another place that is supposed to be about community and togetherness, shattered by bullets and bloodshed. We know this is a uniquely American problem. Today is the 5th anniversary of the Parkland shooting. We're mere weeks past the Lunar New Year shooting at a dance hall, and a few months past a shooting at an elementary school in Uvalde. And looking back at a year marked by shootings at grocery stores, parades, and so many other ordinary, everyday situations, we cannot keep living like this. Our children are scared to go to school. People feel unsafe in their houses of worship or local stores. Too many of us scan rooms for exits when we enter them. And many of us have gone through the grim exercise of figuring out who our last call would be to. Last night, a lot of kids on this campus made those calls. They worried for their lives and for their friends, for their fellow Spartans. Parents across Michigan were on pins and needles, calling their kids to tell them that they love them. As parents, we tell our kids, it's going to be okay. We say that all the time. But the truth is, words are not good enough. We must act, and we will. But today, let's hold the MSU and East Lansing communities close. And let's think of the families and friends of those who have lost, those fighting for their lives, and the countless Michiganders whose lives are forever changed by yesterday's shooting.
Yeah, I wanted to play a little bit about that just because I don't want to be so numb that I don't even recognize when students who are just minding their business in college are no longer with us anymore. All right. Coming up in the second half of the show, I do want to get into the fact that Senator Dianne Feinstein has announced she is not going to seek another term. Dianne Feinstein, of course, with the now since lapsed assault weapons ban, the authors behind that. Who do you want to fill her shoes? It is Valentine's Day. I know it's a little heavy for Valentine's Day. There was something that Leslie Jones had done on Jimmy Fallon. Oh, I don't know if I have the picture. Maybe I'll find it. Where she had a psychic sketch, her soulmate. In the show notes, I have put a link. I want you guys to try it out. If you don't have a soulmate, or even if you do have a soulmate, does it look like the person? Would you even want to? Like I am in the mood for love. I want to find my soulmate. I need all the help I can get. Would you do something like, hey, can't hurt, get a sketch of my possible soulmate for a couple of bucks or whatever? So yeah, the link to it is in the show description if you guys want to check it out and do it. Because then if you do it, let's send in pictures and we'll kind of decipher it. Because if you do have a soulmate and do it, I want to see if it matches. And Leslie Jones was cracking me up when she was showing off the picture of who the psychic thought her soulmate would be. The super chat is live. I want to say thank you to Andreas, who is back. Andreas, we have missed you. We've missed you in the chat room. We have missed you. People have been emailing about you, wondering if you're okay, how your mom is doing. I hope everything's okay. I'm so happy to see you back in the chat. And thank you so much for the donation to the super chat. $10 from Andreas, and then another $10 from Andreas, and then another $20 from Andreas, because we love you like that. Joe also with a $10 super sticker. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Joe. We really do appreciate it. And all the help that you guys give to the show through the super chat. Of course, you can also donate to our Patreon, become a Medorable, as we love to call you, be part of the cool club. Just go to theNikkiMedoroShow.com. The Patreon link is there. Also links to the show to share with your family and friends so we can get our subscriber numbers up. We've gotten thousands in a very short amount of time, but I want thousands more. I want to grow this community. And the only way that I can do it, of course, is with your help. And so please share the show with your family and friends. Tell them, You don't have to watch it, but you do have to subscribe. And then hopefully they'll tune in and realize that it's an informative and fun show. And I just want to include all of you in it. So if you guys can do that for me, I would absolutely love it. Of course, PayPal is up, the Nikki Medoro Show at gmail.com. And then merchandise, a ton of merch at the NikkiMedoroShop.com. So again, coming up, we will talk about Dianne Feinstein. Also, what did you think about Nikki Haley's announcement that she's going to be running for president? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Tim Scott's in the race. And I know he hates being kind of the token Black Republican senator, but he is the only one. So what does that say? All right, that's coming. All right, just trying to get set up here as I do this by myself. Kim McAllister, I saw in the live chat, she was saying hi from Monterey. Yeah, there she is. I found her in the chat. Hello from the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Hello, Kim. I hope you are enjoying your much needed vacation, and happy Valentine's Day to you and your family. And I hope you're having a great old time in Monterey, which is gorgeous. I mean, it's a little cloudy outside my window here. Let me know in the chat also, guys, how has my connection been? So early this morning, and I'm talking like 7:30 this morning, the kids hadn't even gone to school yet. My cable guy came. And I want to give another shout out to JR, who has been just walking me through a lot of the tests and everything to try and get a better connection. Is my connection better than it was, how it has been, especially since I made the move? Let me know. A few pauses, Eric says, but the sound is fine. I don't want the pauses, but I want to make sure that I want it to be noticeably different than it has been, if that makes sense. Okay. So as long as it's better. So they came out, just to let you guys know. Anthony sounded Russian. I don't know if he was Russian, but he sounded Russian. Really nice guy. Came really early this morning and went underneath my house. And I had splitters that, like, for the cable line, the internet line, totally corroded, like a corroded battery. So he was like, that's obviously causing the problem. So we did, some tests, and it's definitely better. Is it obviously not 100% because a couple of pauses? Okay. But if it's better, then it's better. And yes, thank you, JR, and everybody. You guys, honestly, you guys are so sweet. You reach out to me all the time. I had a crappy day. Second part of the day yesterday. If you know me in my personal life, then you know what I'm going to say. Kind of stupid car accident yesterday. Can you believe it? In my Prius, which I don't think I've gotten in an accident. Well, I don't know. I'm knocking on wood. Happened yesterday. Got an accident yesterday. It wasn't my fault. I know everyone says that, but it really wasn't my fault. I was going straight, and I'm not going to try to make excuses for the woman, but I have no idea why she hit me. So I'm going straight, and she has to wait for the straight traffic. It's before she can make a left across from me, and just hit the back of my car. So I was like making my way through. I was almost through it, and she just goes and hits the back of my car. Takes my freaking bumper off. Almost halfway off. Sucked. My poor Prius. So then I get my mom's car because I have to take my kids everywhere, and I don't have a car. I'm waiting outside my daughter's cheerleading yesterday. And my mom doesn't drive really anymore, so her car has been sitting there for a while. And so I took it, and it was fine. And I'm parked outside. I'm listening to the radio with the car off. Battery dies. And I called my husband, and I'm just like done. Like, I was done with yesterday. Between the hiccups during the show, it was just a complete S show. And I think God took pity on me. So I'm sitting in the car, and I'm just so frustrated, and I'm venting. And finally, the car's off and the radio and the lights, everything off. Finally, I just turn the key and it starts up. And I was like, things are going to be looking up tomorrow. So happy Valentine's Day to everybody. No, I don't think that the woman, by the way, was on the phone. And I'm a short person. I think she was even shorter than me. And Marley's like, I don't think she could. My daughter was in the car with me. Her first accident, by the way. No one was injured. Airbags didn't go off because, again, I was just making my way through a stop sign. She was turning, so neither of us could have been going more than 20. I don't even think we were going 20 miles per hour. But yeah, I don't think she was on her phone. She was short. I also think, and I'm not trying to make excuses because her insurance better pay, but I think also she was turning into the sun. It was like 4:30 in the afternoon. So the sun's like that annoying spot, because I don't understand how she hit me. I was literally almost at the intersection. Like the whole time, I'm like, why is this woman hitting me with her car? It was really insane. So yeah. So I'm supposed to hear from her insurance at some point today, but I kept calm. You know, I didn't cuss her out, which in my younger years I probably would have. But anyway, so the day is going up. It is Valentine's Day. Mwah! Big kisses to everybody that's tuning in on this Valentine's. Again, in the show notes, I've included a link to that. Oh, do I have the picture? I might have just saved it on my phone because I was laughing about it, because I made a little short video that you can see in the YouTube. Leslie Jones was on, you know, she's a comedian. She's been on SNL. I think she was one of the fill-in hosts for The Daily Show. But anyways, she was on with Jimmy Fallon, and she was showing a picture of this sketch that a psychic does of, you know, her soulmate. And it was so funny. And she was saying something to the effect of, does this look like a guy that could really hold me down? And, but I was so curious about it. So I looked it up and I put a link. So if you guys on this Valentine's Day are looking for your soulmate, click the link. I don't know. It's not that expensive, but get a sketch done and then share it with me, because I want to know if you have a soulmate, if it looks like your soulmate, if it looks like you're like, hey, that looks better than my soulmate. Or would you even do something like this? Like you are so desperate. Desperate's a bad word, but you're so ready. You're so ready for love that you'll take any avenue you can. So again, in the show notes, you'll see the little link there, and give it a shot and tell me what you think, because I think it's hilarious, just because Leslie Jones was cracking me up. All right. So the big news, of course, locally in local politics, Dianne Feinstein has made it official. She announced on Twitter, I'm announcing today that I will not run for re-election in 2024, but intend to accomplish as much for California as I can through the end of next year when my term ends. Even with a divided Congress, we can still pass bills that will improve lives. All right, people. Who would you like to, and she has very big shoes to fill. Very, very big shoes to fill. Who do you think should fill her shoes? So we know that Katie Porter has already thrown her hat in the race. I think I've made it abundantly clear that she has my vote. I love Katie Porter. I do. I'm not knocking anybody else that may go for it, but I like Katie Porter. I think she's proven herself. You know, we were speaking and talking about social media and kind of conveying messages digitally nowadays. Katie Porter has it. I think when we are talking about reaching people of all ages, of all voting ages, Katie Porter does it in a way that makes sense. She has her iconic whiteboard, and she uses it, and she holds people's feet to the fire. She writes the numbers so you don't get lost. One of the rules in radio always was, you don't want to give too many numbers over the radio, because people are driving, they're not writing things down, they're not going to remember it. Katie Porter knows this. Right? She knows that if you start throwing out numbers, people get lost a little bit. So she writes it so you could see it. And so she could do the math, and she can call these buttheads out for the BS they're trying to peddle to the rest of the American people. So I love Katie Porter. Dianne Feinstein has thrown her support behind Adam Schiff. Do you think, and you guys tell me in the comments, do you think that Dianne Feinstein's endorsement for her to replace her will matter? I am not one for endorsements. I don't mind reading them, you know, newspaper endorsements, other people's endorsements. I may take it to heart. I'll consider it. I'll consider your point of view. But it's not as if I was a Katie Porter fan, all of a sudden hearing Dianne Feinstein say, you know, I'd love to see Adam Schiff take my spot, is going to change my vote away from Katie Porter. It's just not. And I'm, again, not knocking Adam Schiff. I think that he's a hardworking politician. I do think that he has some controversial baggage associated with him, because, you know, he was holding Trump's feet to the fire and what have you. I am not trying to take anything away from Adam Schiff. All I'm saying is I like Katie Porter, and I think a lot of you do as well. Murphy, Katie Porter. Super Mike, Katie MFing Porter. Yep. Yeah, I like her. I really, really do. No way in hell, Lady Beatrice, would I ever run in politics. Not in a million friggin' years. You know, I don't even think I would run for a school board, in all honesty. I mean, I have ideas and I will talk to people that are part of it, but I don't know. I don't know. It's just, it is so much responsibility and pressure and listening to nonsense, especially in this year, 2023. And I don't know if I'd have the patience for it. I'd rip everybody a new butthole and then I'd get kicked out. And so why even bother, you know? Yeah, Murphy, whiteboard them all. Exactly. Randy likes Katie Porter. Ms. Organic likes Katie Porter. Lori likes Katie Porter. Okay. Vilma Schiff, but I would love Schiff and Porter to represent California as senators. Amy is at the Katie Porter. Yeah, I don't think it will, Randy. Randy writes in, I hope Feinstein's endorsement of Schiff doesn't matter. Not a fan of Schiff. Okay, Randy, why? What don't you like about Schiff? What didn't you like about him? Was it the whole Trump stuff or is there something else specific? Lady says, I don't think it will matter because it comes down to the votes. We'll go that way. Yeah. No, Nikki for Senate. No, thank you. Yeah. Vilma doesn't think the endorsement will sway anyone. Yeah, Flo, Schiff and Porter are excellent, but Porter is great for the times in the future. That's exactly right. That's what I'm saying. The whiteboard, the use of social media. Katie Porter. Now, I know these people have staff. Okay, I know they have somebody that's in charge of doing all that. But doesn't it seem like Katie Porter could handle her own social media? You know, I'm not saying the Schiff can't. I don't know anything about him. But that's the point. I don't really know Schiff's. This is such a stupid way of phrasing it, but I don't know Schiff's social media brand. Katie Porter has a brand. She has the whiteboard. She explains things to you in simple terms. It's important. It's important in a time in which we are bombarded by information for someone to cut through it and explain what we need to know in a way we can understand clearly. And if you can make your point by writing it on a whiteboard, you're going to make great waves with people, you know? Yeah, well, Joe Box. Hey, Joe Box. Sorry, Californians, but Feinstein should have retired 3 terms ago, but she didn't. And she was reelected and, you know, she was going to do it. Let's see. Yeah. No way, Kim. I would never go for the PTA. That's so funny. Why not Gavin? He's governor. He's not going to be a senator. Come on. Another vote for Katie Porter, 100%. Let's see. Oh, here's interesting. Cindy writes in, Schiff is corporate, Porter talk in an easy to understand way. Okay, there you go. Vilma raising some concerns. Democrats have to be careful not to split the vote and cause a Republican to win the seat. Look, I don't think that's going to happen. You know, believe me, we will rally if we even see a hint that it could go the other way. Yeah, I think that it's going to be an interesting race to watch. I hope it doesn't get dirty. You know, I wish that, especially, you know, if it's Democrats running against each other, just put forth, you know, like we might agree on ideas and a platform even. I don't want to tear you down. I just think I'm going to be the person that's going to be better able to do it. Similar to trying out for a play, right? I'm not going to tear you down because, you know, I want to be Alice in Wonderland. I'm just going to say, you're going to say the same lines. I'm going to say the same lines. I just happen to think that I say them in a better way, in a different way, in a way that resonates with people. And so I feel like I'm the better candidate. Not knocking you, not telling you you're a terrible, awful, no good person, but I'm the one that should take this political position in the case of Senator Dianne Feinstein and get what we want as a party done. Right? Couldn't politics be nice? 11 writes, it's always an S show. Yeah, I know. Oh, Randy wrote back. Randy wrote in and said, I don't know specifically what it is about Schiff. I always love when people judge people and start by saying, I don't know what it is about that person. I just don't like him. I've seen him a lot and heard him being interviewed. Just don't like the guy. He's too much of a politician. Porter just seems to cut through the BS. You know what, Randy? I'll allow it. Yeah. I love that answer, actually, Randy. I think that answer is how a lot of people vote. You know, like if there's nothing specifically wrong with you, then it's just how I feel about you. It's just how you make me feel as a voter. And people vote that way all of the time. All of the time. Joe wrote in, people will vote for anyone if they recognize the name. Name recognition is huge. It's not about qualifications, accomplishments, or platform. Well, I mean, I think that if you accomplish a lot, you make a name for yourself. Too much of a newcomer could be a problem. Although, as I'm saying those words, someone that always comes to mind, because I remember the first time I ever heard him on the radio, Pete Buttigieg. I remember saying to myself, who's this guy? He's a mayor? And I listened to him talk, and he had it. He just had something about him. And so you have to do something like that. I don't know if Barbara Lee is considering, because what? She just became mayor of LA, right? So I don't think she's going to give that up. She worked her ass off to get that position, but we'll see. Yeah, exactly. Walnut Creek adult softball. Wouldn't it be nice to have a run with some decorum? Absolutely. And that's what I was saying. It doesn't have to be get in the mud. Oh, you're an awful person. Look what this person does. That's why I should win. Because what that would require is the putting aside of ego. It's putting aside people that are whispering in your ear, you should talk crap about Schiff because, in the polls, he's kind of ahead. He has Feinstein's endorsement. And so if you don't start talking crap about him, then all your votes are going to go. It's not going to seem like you really want the job. Block that BS out. Block it out. Just like, you know what? I liked his work, on the investigations into the former president. I liked how he did X, Y, and Z. He should continue doing that. I am the right woman for the job to be a senator, a U.S. senator, because I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I am the right person. I'm speaking as Katie Porter here. I am the right person for the job because I have proven that I've X, Y, and Z. I've proven that I can resonate with the American people, right? Not knocking Schiff. Schiff, you do a great job. You should continue doing that job, right? I mean, it just seems to me that there is a way to politic without doing the dirty politicking, Joe Box at 49, Katie may be a better representation for emerging voters. Schiff is approaching retirement age. How old is Schiff? Let's see. Schiff age. Let's see. Not agency. How old is he? Let's see. You are right. 62. Now that I look at him, yeah, I guess. I think, yeah. Now that I look at him, 62 makes sense. I told you guys that the other day, I actually said out loud that I was going to be 45 this year. Blew my mind. And don't laugh at me if you're older than 45. I know. But God, saying it out loud. Whew. But yeah, so Adam Schiff, 62. But that's like middle-aged in politics years. Not saying it's the good thing. I'm just saying. John says Schiff's fine, but he also seems like a dude who would gladly take big corporation money, PG&E, for example. Porter strikes me as someone who won't be bought so easily. Excellent point. I agree with you. I do. I agree with you. I'm not saying that Schiff definitely would, but yeah, he kind of seems like he would. Let's see. David Odell, before Alex Padilla, the last male senator from California was Pete Wilson in 1991. And briefly, John Seymour, who replaced Wilson, who resigned to become governor. Some good history for you there. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with having all women. Decorum is a nice cologne. Thank you, 11. Okay. Let's see. Vilma says, what sold me on Adam Schiff was Schiff's speech at the summation of the Trump impeachment. It's on YouTube. 62 is not over the hill. It's not over the hill. No, it's not at all. Absolutely. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll absolutely see what's going to happen. Now, Nikki Haley, remember, she was like, I'm going to make an appointment. I thought it was the 15th, but I guess it was the 13th. So Nikki Haley has announced that she is going to be running for president. Now, there was this old video that some people are pointing to. Nikki Haley, of course, a Republican, former UN ambassador. What do you think about Nikki Haley running for president? I know I have some conservatives that watch me. But remember this video. I'm surprised she's running. Here we go.
he runs again in 2024, will you support him? Yes. If he decides that he's going to run, would that preclude any sort of run that you would possibly make yourself?
I would not run if President Trump ran.
It was the 15th.
Nikki Haley.
She is making the announcement tomorrow. That's what I thought, but she's putting out videos already, and you can already tell her slogan. Like, I like wearing heels because when I kick them, it hurts, or something like that. Some sort of line she's going to say 1,000,000 times while she's running for president. So you guys tell me in the comments what you think about Nikki Haley, because she has like an A+ rating from the NRA. Tim Scott's also running. Do you think he has a better chance of getting the GOP nomination? I don't think he has the name recognition when we were talking about how important name recognition is, although he is the only Black senator that's Republican. So he should be known for that. So let me know in the comments, because right now we want to bring someone on that has a ton of name recognition on the Nikki Medoro Show. And that, of course, is our exclusive founding sponsor, Steve Moskowitz. Hello, my friend. So
Hi,
good to
Nikki.
see you. Hi. So we had Lori above the bar. We had another person yesterday mentioning how awesome you are to work with. For people who are just joining us, walk us through the process a little bit of going from, I have either a tax concern, question about ERC, I have a small business and I might need help. What happens when they call AAA Tax Deal?
An old-fashioned chat. We sit down and talk with each other, person to person, not fancy, under regulation 1, 2, 3, 4. We just talk. And then I say, well, okay, here's what we can do. This fits under this. This fits under that. And I explain things. It's old-fashioned lawyering, where you sit down with somebody and you just simply talk to them. You explain what their situation is and what we can do for you. For example, if we're talking about ERC, we explain how you can get up to $26,000 for every employee you had during 2021 and 2020. If it's an audit, we go over, and we have attorney-client privilege, we go over, are there any things that upon reflection you wish you had done differently? If it's somebody that can't pay their taxes, well, what's your situation? What are your earnings? What are your assets? What can you do? A lot of times there's special circumstances. Somebody's sick in the family, or somebody has a challenge. So all that counts. And if they need advice, we say, well, look, here's what we can do. But the thing that's so important, it's not some mechanized thing where you're wondering, well, what's this and what's that? It's plain old fashioned talking to you. And then we say, okay, look, here's what we can do in your case. Plain and simple.
Yeah. And I love how you mentioned, and you've mentioned this before, you give people homework to do. How much do they have to have things together before they give you that first phone call?
Usually not very much. So what'll happen is oftentimes an assistant will call them first. And like with ERC, they'll ask them a few questions. Well, what about this? What about this? What about this? So they'll have some things ready for me. And then with and it's not a lot of homework, but it's just a few basics. And then they know what it is and they'll get it, so that when we talk, we can have a meaningful conversation, opposed to, well, could you get me this and get me that? And then I'll call you back.
Right.
And it's everything is designed to take care of the client. That's what we're doing. We're taking care of somebody. Just like I'd want to be taken care of if I went to a physician. I don't want to hear words I don't understand. I don't want to be scared to death. I want a realistic appreciation. And also, the factors. For example, if a professional athlete goes to a physician with a knee problem, it's different than somebody that just has a normal life. What may be needed for one isn't needed for the other. So the bottom line is, and it's reasonable, it's practical. I'm mostly dealing with small business people. I'm a small business person too. And I understand what they're going through. It's not somebody that, never owned a business or doesn't know, or you're supposed to do this. It's practical, realistic.
I love that. And I love that about you. Give Steve a call. The number's right there on your screen, 1-888-TAX-DEAL or MoskowitzLLP.com, 888-TAX-DEAL or MoskowitzLLP.com.
The part I wait for.
Happy Valentine's Day. We love you, Steve. Thank you so much.
Happy Valentine's Day Love you too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Yeah, so give Steve a call. Tell him the Nikki Medoro Show sent you. Please support Steve Moskowitz. It helps us out immensely if you support our one exclusive founding sponsor. So I really, really appreciate all of you that have, and will continue to do so. Okay, so let's get back into it, shall we? So Nikki Haley. Oh, I love John Slade that you put this up. Supported the Confederate flag when she was governor of South Carolina. So now look, I know it's South Carolina. Okay. I get it that certain things come with the territory, but I did have a video, and that's why I'm so glad that you brought that up. So watch this video. This is pretty telling of who Nikki Haley is, because this is a response to a tragedy. It is in moments of conflict and tragedy that people tell you and show you who they are, right? It is that reaction. It is even, you had time to think about it, and this was your reaction. So this was following the horrific shooting at that South Carolina Black church by that gunman, who I shall not name. But let me play you this video real quickly, because this is possibly your next president of the United States.
South Carolina fell to her knees when this happened. This is one of the oldest African-American churches. These 12 people were amazing people. They loved their church. They loved their family. They loved their community. And here is this guy that comes out with his manifesto holding the Confederate flag and had just hijacked everything that people thought of. And we don't have hateful people in South Carolina. There's always the small minority that's always going to be there. But, you know, people saw it as service and sacrifice and heritage. But once he did that, there was no way to overcome it. And the national media came in droves. They wanted to define what happened. They wanted to make this about racism. They wanted to make it about gun control. They wanted to make it about,
because it was, yeah, pain in the ass.
Death penalty. And I really pushed off the national media and said there will be a time and place where we talk about this, but it is not now. We're going to get through the funerals. We're going to respect them. And then we will have that conversation. And we had a really tough few weeks of debate, but we didn't have riots. We had vigils. We didn't have protests. We had hugs. And the people of South Carolina stepped up and showed the world what it looks like to show grace and strength in the eyes of tragedy.
I'm done with her. I just, someone that wants to be president of the United States, that has this, great rating from the NRA. I want someone that's going to answer the call of the tragedy that we continue to see in this country, not continue to court the love of the NRA. Okay. I don't want someone that's part of the problem. I want someone to work on a solution that the country can rally behind. Yeah, exactly, Eric. By the time we're through the funerals, there's been another shooting. Exactly. So for her to just kind of like, there's a time for it. No, there's not. You have to talk about it during it, because it's still happening every freaking day. So it's exhausting. Then we have Republican Senator Tim Scott, again, the only Black Republican in the Senate. He says he's going to run for president. What do you think about Tim Scott? People always drag up videos. I showed you the one before I brought Steve Moskowitz on of Nikki Haley saying she never ran for president if former President Trump ran. Right, she's running because I think people are done with Trump. So obviously. And then people are sharing this clip. This is from, I think, March of 2021. And this is when Tim Scott was being interviewed on Fox News. So this is what he said.
Okay, let me just say this on what you just said. Woke supremacy is as bad as white supremacy. We need to take that seriously. And to all those folks who oppose good common sense, Matthew 5:44 is still available to be read. Okay,
so who wants to tell me what Matthew 5:44 is? Any Catholics out there? Anybody know what Matthew 5:44 has to deal with? No? Crickets? I'll give you a couple seconds. Yeah. I think, talking about woke supremacy, he responded, because people keep bringing this stuff up, to compare white supremacy to woke supremacy. He says that it was a soundbite length reaction, calling me a token for Republicans. He says woke supremacy. His criticism has included the suggestion that I and other Republicans are living proof that neither racial nor gender diversity is a guarantor of progressive, inclusive, and broad-minded thinking. Diversity, much in vogue, has its limits. In other words, my ideology, this is Tim Scott saying this, my ideology does not match that which they prescribe based on my complexion. So basically saying, because I'm Black, I'm supposed to take these liberal type of ways. I am a conservative. That's what he calls woke supremacy. It is the, quote, tolerant left's intolerance for dissent. It is a progressive conception of diversity that does not include diversity of thought. It is discrimination falsely marketed as inclusion. That is how he defines woke supremacy. 544, there we go. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. That, my friends, is Matthew 5:44. I just feel like Tim Scott needs to look in the mirror within his own party. The GOP has jumped the shark a long time ago. They're not for big government, and yet wants the government intruding in the most personal aspects of your life, right? I mean, there are so many ways in which the GOP is no longer just a party of conservative, smaller governments, reducing taxes, because it's hypocritical. It's hypocritical. The Republican Party wants to reduce taxes on the rich, right? I mean, that was former President Trump's whole tax plan that Republicans passed under Trump, right? The Republicans passed this huge tax plan, and it had taken so many years to get a new tax plan passed, and all the benefits never end for the uber rich, but they do sunset in the middle of President Biden's presidency for the middle and low class. They don't give a crap about us. All right. So I don't know. I don't know if Tim Scott is going to have the name recognition. I do think that if you were going to compare the two, perhaps Nikki Haley, being a woman, being of Indian descent, she has, both the minority, person of color type aspect, where I'm not going to call it tokenism, because she is a success in her own right? Becoming UN ambassador and governor and all those things you can't take away from. And I'm not going to. So in a race at this point, I put Nikki Haley a smidge ahead. But then, of course, there's former President Trump. Apparently, he's not letting go of this idea that he actually brought up back in 2020, bringing back firing squads and air executions on TV. And he says he wants to do that if he is reelected. Apparently, two Rolling Stone writers wrote that Trump has been regularly asking those around him, what do you think of firing squads? If that isn't tone deaf, given America, I don't know what is. But yeah, he says Trump has talked about bringing back death by firing squad, by hanging, and according to two sources, possibly even the guillotine. He has also sources say discussed group executions. Trump has floated these ideas while discussing planned campaign rhetoric and policy desires, as well as his disdain for President Biden's approach to crime. So he's doubling down. He is doubling down and saying, the whole build the wall thing worked for me, and that seemed insane. So why don't I just bring back firing squads and the guillotine? Okay. I'm enjoying watching former President Trump flounder in the polls. I will not count him out ever, given the fact that he was president of the United States of America. I still can't believe that. Amy writes in, being woke is to be awake on social issues. Yes, the opposite is to sleep, as to ignore social issues. They just love to ignore real issues. Yeah. Murphy writes, love is not the same as agreement. I love my kids, but I disagree with broken windows and drawing on my walls. Well, yes, absolutely. I can love you and still say, what is wrong with you? Yes, Murphy. Yes, absolutely. Vilma, I'm not a doctor, but I believe Trump is insane. Yes, exactly. Joe Box, I could totally see this happening. He wants to sell sponsorships for televising it on pay-per-view. Yes, I could totally see that is disturbing as hell. And be like, hey, you want to air these executions? We could sell some money. I could stamp the Trump logo on it. Yeah, he's thinking revenge, Liz. I think you're right. Absolutely. Yeah, and Amy, he doesn't read the room. But I do think saturation points, we talk about it with social media and all sorts of things. I think we've reached a Trump saturation point. At least I truly hope so. All right. I have time for 2 more stories before the end of the show. And tomorrow, I just want to let you know, I'm going to be speaking with a Riverside professor. And we're going to be talking about whether Ticketmaster has gotten it together. Who is planning on buying Beyonce tickets? So apparently the pre-sale has already started. And then there's like the credit card one. I think it's City Card or something. There's always the credit card one. Anybody in my comments, let me know right now. Are you planning on buying Beyonce tickets? And then what do you think of those fees? So I've been reading all of these articles. Well, Professor Carolyn Sloan with UC Riverside will be on tomorrow and talk about, has Ticketmaster learned its lessons? Is it still going to face problems? And, while the stories coming out of the Beyonce sale in other parts of the country seem to be better, those fees and kind of that monopoly that Ticketmaster has, I don't know. So we'll be having that conversation tomorrow. But how many of you? And also tomorrow, I want to ask you guys, what is the most you would pay for a concert ticket? And with someone like Beyonce, who I like her music, I wouldn't call myself like part of the Bayhive or whatever. But I would love to see her in concert simply because she's iconic. When I'm older and I'm thinking about all the concerts I was able to go to and see, I want to say that I went to Beyonce at some point. I would have loved to see Prince in concert. There are people that, even if you're not a huge Uber fan, let's experience I'd love to see Lady Gaga in concert. So you guys let me know, brainstorm that, because we'll be talking about that tomorrow. I love the fact that we actually had to have a press conference to address this funny thing. And I do think that it's serious. I think all of these foreign objects, I think yesterday over Hawaii, there were these green lasers that were shining down. Like, what the hell is going on? Floating balloons, unidentified flying objects, things like this. But of course, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre and White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby had to address the alien in the room.
Just wanted to make sure we address this from the White House. I know there have been questions and concerns about this, but there is no indication of aliens or extraterrestrial activity with these recent takedowns. Again, there is no indication of aliens or terrestrial activity with these recent takedowns. Wanted to make sure that the American people knew that, all of you knew that, and it was important for us to say that from here because we've been hearing a lot about it. I'm not.
Would you tell us?
I'm just, I loved E.T., the movie, but I'm just going to leave it there.
Officials at the Pentagon, when asked explicitly if they were ruling out any kind of extraterrestrial presence, said they weren't ruling anything out. And yet at the beginning of today's briefing, albeit with her usual winning smile, Ms. Jean-Pierre seemed to rule out any extraterrestrial activity.
I don't think the American people need to worry about aliens with respect to these craft, period. I don't think there's any more that needs to be said
there. He's done. He's like, this is stupid. I'm going to stop talking about it. Now, Eric, you said the green lasers was a satellite that measures air pollution. They were a Chinese satellite. I don't know if it measured pollution. Let me read this article. I don't see anything about it being about pollution. All I saw, the latest that I saw, was that it was a Chinese satellite. I don't know what the hell they're doing in our airspace all the time. Hold on. 11 says a UFO. It's an unidentified flying object. We think UFO, we instantly think ET, like Karine Jean-Pierre was joking about. But we really need, are we paying attention? Are we too lost in our TikToks? The China's like, dude, we know what they're looking at and they're not looking up. So we need to look up more. We need to figure it the hell out and stop all of this nonsense. I mean, it can be really scary. And finally, guess who's back? Back again. Do you know? Barney's back. Tell a friend. Barney's back. Barney's back. Barney's back. Who liked Barney? I never watched this show. I mean, I've seen clips of it. But yeah, apparently Barney the dinosaur is getting a reboot. Now, Barney was started in 1992. So definitely I was an age in which I could have watched it. According to Mattel's chief financial officer, Josh Silverman, he says, we will tap into the nostalgia of the generations who grew up with Barney, now parents themselves, and introduce the iconic purple dinosaur to a new generation of kids and families. You know the song, I love you, you love me. Yeah, it was an earworm that drove people insane. Now, this wouldn't be the first time Mattel's tried to bring Barney back. In 2015, Mattel and 9 Story Media Group announced a deal to relaunch the children's show, but it didn't air. In 2019, Mattel said it would produce a live-action Barney movie with actor Daniel Kaluuya, Academy Award-winning actor. I don't know, man. Out of all of the things to bring back, I don't think that Barney's it. Eric says, I'm not nostalgic for Barney. Neither am I. 11, Barney is a big turd. Yeah. But Lou says, all my younger sisters watch this. I swear I still know the weather song. I wouldn't even know it. Liz is my daughter's favorite when she was young. Yeah, I watched clips. Remember the news story that they used to play that Barney song as like a torture technique? The U.S. government would just play it over the I love you, you love me, or something like that song. I think that was true. No, I'm not. I do not think that this is going to work, but we shall see. Let's see. Chris says, thank God my kids are out of that age. Fun fact, though, in 1999, I beat the hell out of Barney when he showed up at my birthday and sang a profane song about and to me. What? How old were you, Chris? I'm assuming if it was a profane song, you were not a child. Let's see. Murphy says, Barney was after my time and before my kids. Oh, you just had that lucky pocket. Lou says, parents probably need him back, Nikki. It will be a nice break for them. No. Who else didn't I care for? What's the bald kid's name? That cartoon, the bald kid that has not Charlie Brown, but kind of looks like him. I'm brain farting. I can't believe I can't remember his name. He was annoying. I liked Curious George. When I had little kids like my daughter, it was Yo Gabba Gabba. That was mine. Oh, Caillou. Thank you, Luce. Caillou. Thank you. That's that annoying kid. God, that kid was annoying. But no, Yo Gabba Gabba with Biz Markie. I mean, bringing Biz Markie in to rap songs was a surefire way of getting parents my age to watch the show. Don't Bite Your Friends was a Yo Gabba Gabba song that had me cracking up because I was a bit of a biter as a kid. Yeah, Eric, Yo Gabba Gabba was legit awesome. I actually went to Yo Gabba Gabba live with my best friend and our 2 daughters who are still best friends to this day. Yeah. Yeah, Caillou. All of them for Caillou. Oh, here's the update for the story. Chris writes in, I was 24 when Barney came. Turned out to be an old guy my friends hired who did kids' birthday parties. They gave him fair warning. I just docked his big purple nose a couple of times, figuring it was a friend in costume. That's hilarious. I mean, I'm not promoting violence, of course, but yeah. Oh, my Murphy says my kids' favorites were the British animated shorts of Charlie and Lola. I've never seen that show. Dora. Now, Joe, Dora, I did watch, but I will say this. When she paused for the kids to answer, that was kind of annoying. What was the other shows? I mean, There was there's a bunch of shows that my kids would watch. But out of all of the shows, never would I want to bring Barney back. So I don't know what kind of analysis they're doing, focus groups that they're doing. Oh, I watched a lot of Peppa Pig, Joe Box. Absolutely. Absolutely. I was not a Teletubbies or a Bob the Builder house. Not at all. Paw Patrol sometimes. To the book club. What was that one? It was the Super Readers. We watched that one. That's when my kids were kids. I mean, when I was little, we watched KTVU, right? I mean, we watched He-Man and She-Ra and all those. That's the one I watched as a kid. No Thomas the Wiggles. My old friend Brett Burkhardt over at Station X, now at KCBS, his daughter was really into the Wiggles. Just ask him about that. Blue's Clues. Nope. Wasn't really into that. Yo Gabba Gabba, man. That was our show. And Peppa Pig. I like Peppa Pig. Daddy Pig. We still make jokes about Daddy Pig. Yeah. We still do that in my household. So yeah, we watched a lot of Peppa Pig. Having little accents. Oh yeah, and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Well, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. That was the offshoot of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. So we watched a little bit of Daniel Tiger. And so yeah. Oh, I've never heard of. Linda says, my brothers love the Banana Splits. Don't know that show. Sam says, my 2-year-old boy's addicted to Blippi. My kids don't watch these things anymore. Roly Police Ollie, or is it Roly Poly Ollie? I don't know. Kathleen writes that in. Yeah. The phone. The phone is ringing. Oh, they'll be right there. Yes. That was the phone. What show was that though? Am I blanking on it? It wasn't Peppa Pig, was it? No. Tell me, Daddy Chi. I'm forgetting. I'm brain farting on the whole entire thing. Oh yeah, for Gen X, Captain Kangaroo, Mayor Art Bozo. Yep. Oh, Inspector Gadget. I loved Inspector Gadget as a kid. That's a show. Super Y. I watched that show. Exactly. Super Y. That was a good show. Power Rangers, Captain Kangaroo, Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo hasn't died, and now that they make movies out of him, that's definitely one. Definitely. Super Pets. Thank you, Eric. That was it. The phone is ringing. The phone. Wonder Pets. Not Super Pets. Daddy Chi has it right. Not Super Pets. Wonder Pets. The phone is ringing. Phone. We'll be right there. Yeah, I still watch Scooby-Doo, Miss Organic. So yeah, The Muppets, that's good. Sailor Moon. I didn't watch much of Sailor Moon, but I know of it. It's not one that doesn't ring true. So I'm not seeing any fans of Barney over here. So I don't know what the hell Mattel is thinking, but I don't think that it's going to survive. If it does, there's something wrong with the kids. I don't know. I don't know what they need. All right. Well, that was a great show. Again, tomorrow, please tune in. We are going to be talking about Beyonce tickets. Who's planning on buying those tickets? How much would you pay? And is there something to be said about seeing iconic musicians and singers? I mean, is there anybody from your past that you wish you saw when they were alive or still performing and touring and things like that? Because that's how I feel about Beyonce, Lady Gaga. I saw Elton John. Am I a huge Elton John fan? No. I know a lot of his songs because he's been around for so long. But I was stoked to go see him before he stopped touring. Because now I can always say I saw Elton John in concert and I know what it's like and to be there. But is Ticketmaster and the fees and the monopoly they have really hampering people's efforts to see some of these iconic singers? So that's coming up tomorrow. I'll be speaking with the UC Riverside professor about that. Before the show ends, please click the thumbs up button to show support. Please. And this is a crowd-funded show. I can't do it without you. Okay, I can't be here without you. Kim's going to be back tomorrow. Can't forget to say that. So please, if you can, become a monthly subscriber. Become a Medorable. We absolutely love you all. The website's right there, thenikkimedoroshow.com. It's the show's website. The Patreon link is right there on the front page, as well as links to YouTube to share with your family and friends to get our subscriber numbers up. Grab your friends' phones. Grab your family's phones. Make them subscribers to the Nikki Medoro Show. Be like, you don't know what you're missing. It's a fun time. We talk about news, politics. We do food. We do movies. Come on. It's a great time. The Nikki Medoro shop is where you go to get merchandise so that you can wear a little bit of me with you where you go. And people go, what's that? And you go, the Nikki Medoro Show, obviously. So I love you all. I absolutely love you all. Let me give some more shout outs because we just got another donation. Sam, keep up the great work. Always your number one SF fan. Sam, thank you for the $10 donation, Sam. Kevin Hobbs, $33.33. I love all of the threes. Andreas with not just one $10 donation, but another $10 donation and a $20 donation on top of that. And then Joe Fong with a $10 donation. I love you all. Have a fabulous Valentine's Day. Remember, go in the show notes. There is a link to the Soulmate Sketch. Check it out. Click it. Check it out. If you want to do it, please do it. I would love to see whether the sketch of your soulmate matches who your soulmate is, or if you're going to be on the hunt for that person. So check that out. Email me, send me the pictures. Let me know what you think about it because it was just so funny. Some last minute donations. Daddy Chi with a $1 donation, $5 donation from Chris B with a happy Valentine's Day. I love you all. Love each other so very much. And we'll talk tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're all so the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.